Hello folks, and welcome to Jack Reviews Musicals. If this is your first time seeing my face, hi, my name is Jack and I am a musical theater superfan based in St. Louis, Missouri, and this is my YouTube channel where I share my thoughts on all the musical productions I go out to see. In this video, I am going to be talking about Stages St. Louis's production of Newsies, which played at the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center from July 26th through August the 25th of 2024. This is part 2 of our little break from the Muny season. We're talking about a theater company that is new to this channel, Stages St. Louis, which is a company dedicated to producing theater that is of a quality comparable to an average-sized Broadway house. And their production of Newsies is what I believe so far to be the second professional production of Newsies after the Muny did in 2017. Newsies originally premiered on Broadway in 2012. It's an adaptation of the 1992 Disney movie of the same name. The songs were composed by Little Mermaid composer Alan Menken. It was directed and choreographed by Kenny Ortega of Hocus Pocus and High School Musical fame, and it starred then 18-year-old Christian Bale in the lead. When the film was released, it was a gigantic flop at the box office, grossing under $3 million against a $15 million budget, criticized for its bloated runtime, cheap production values, and really cheesy directing. But Alan Menken's songs, Kenny Ortega's choreography, and Christian Bale's star magnetism earned Newsies a cult following when it was released on cable and home video. Eventually, the fan base for Newsies grew so much that the theater kids that grew up with it wanted a stage version so that they can do it themselves. And so Disney caved into the demand in the early 2010s. It premiered on Broadway in 2012 featuring Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel in the Christian Bale role, and it became a monster hit. So much so that I would argue Newsies is one of those screen-to-stage musical theater adaptations that not only supplants the original film, but stands on its own. Newsies is the Disney-fied musicalization of the Newsboy strike of 1899, an interesting piece of history that not many people talked about much back when Newsies first came out, nor is it really taught in schools these days. The Newsboy strike of 1899 was one of the labor strikes at the turn of the 20th century, because there were like a butt ton of them, and it actually led to not only stronger labor unions, but also improved child labor laws in the United States, making working conditions for minors in this country what it is today. It is a sweltering July in 1899 New York City, where we follow a bunch of ragamuffins working as newsies, kids that go around selling newspapers on street corners. And these kids range from every background: lower class kids making ends meet, orphans living on the street, and the latter is the case for our protagonist, Jack Kelly. Jack is the de facto leader of the Newsies, working in Manhattan's Lower East Side, delivering papers for the New York World, the Herald, and the Sun. Outside of being a newsie, Jack works full-time as a theatrical set painter, which realizes his skills as a cartoonist and illustrator. And so Jack dreams of a better life as a professional artist in Santa Fe, alongside his best friend, a disabled orphan who is affectionately named Crutchy. But then the livelihoods of them and other newsies all over New York are threatened when the cost of the newspapers that they have to sell goes up, a move that reduces their wages by a wide margin. The Lower East Side newsies, led by Jack, decide to go on strike in retaliation. They start protesting, getting into fights, riling things up, and all that jazz. And at first, they get no clout. But then they catch the attention of up-and-coming reporter Catherine Plummer. who is convinced by Jack to get involved in the strike, and so she successfully uses her platform to spread the word around. But as the strike keeps growing, Joseph Pulitzer, yes, that Joseph Pulitzer, newspaper magnate Joseph Pulitzer, the namesake for the Pulitzer Prize, he turns to desperate measures as he tries to put the Newsies in their place and silence them for good, all in the name of corporate greed. Now, Newsies is very obviously a highly fictionalized account of real historical events, and it is very Disneyfied. But the things that Newsies has to say about today's world are actually pretty relevant. It's a story about protesting for equal rights, fighting oppression, speaking truth to power. And whether it's in the print age or in the digital age, that still rings true. It's a timeless story. It's the reason why it became such a hit with theater kids, and why the show was nominated for 8 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. The Broadway production only received 2 Tony Awards, but they're big ones. Best Score for Alan Menken and Jack Feldman's songs, and Best Choreography, which in the Broadway production was conceived by Christopher Catelli, adapting it from the movie's choreography by Kenny Ortega. And the choreography is the biggest draw for seeing Newsies, both the movie and the stage version. The original intention with the choreography was to capture the raw energy, the youthful spirit of these Newsies. The movement vocabulary includes jumping, spinning, kicking. Like, these guys have to move like Olympic gymnasts. The choreography in Stages St. Louis's production was conceived by Lindsay Joy Lancaster, who actually made her professional theater debut with this production. But looking at her work with Newsies, I would have thought that she was a seasoned veteran. Every single major dance number in this show, every Newsie is doing like 20 unique acrobatic tricks in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Splits, spread eagles, backflips, flip-flops, one right after the other.
There's pirouetting, there's break dancing, they tap dance on newspapers. Newsies is an extremely demanding show physically, and for a debut choreographer for such a kinetic musical, Lindsay Joy Lancaster, her work is a damned impressive feat. And there's also a lot of fight choreography in the show, which was conceived here by Bart Williams. And that alone is notable because of the amount of hand-to-hand brawls there are in this. The movement in Newsies is legitimately thrilling. It fully invests you into this story and characters that are deftly written by Harvey Fierstein, Disneyfied though it may be. And the music is just fantastic. Alan Menken and Jack Feldman created awesome proletariat anthems. The World Will Know, Seize the Day, Once and For All, dance numbers like the opening number, Carrying the Banner, and the Act 2 opener, King of New York. And they even wrote great solos with Jack's Big I Want song, Santa Fe, and Catherine's Watch What Happens. It definitely deserves that Best Score Tony. And Stages makes good on that win. Musical director David Nell superbly leads Stages St. Louis's 10-piece orchestra, with himself on the piano. Every member of the orchestra executing this score perfectly, mining ovation-inducing vocals from the cast. And talk about this cast! Director Steve Babo collaborated with the cast to create some truly great performances. And I especially love that Steve Babo diversified the cast. The Newsies aren't all just boys, like in the movie. Babo actually states in the program that Newsies, being kids of literally every background, is actually more historically accurate, which does make this New York of the past feel more authentic. And Babo's staging of the show was snippy and smooth as butter. Like, you could see that he had total control over every single element of this production. A big part of that is because Bebo chose to retain the musical's cinematic quality, even from the very beginning. The pre-show boom features a video projection that was designed by Suki Kawamura of newspapers rolling through printing presses. Kawamura also does other projection work throughout this production that is evocative and vibrant, as is the lighting design by Sean M. Savoy. Muny set designer and Beiersdorfer is back again, this time creating another versatile multi-level unit set for Newsies. This set has an industrial girder and cog motif that is reminiscent of old printing factories, complete with a backdrop of newspapers peeling off of the cyclorama. That's attention to detail right there. There's ladders, there's stairs, there's a conveyor slide that's used pretty effectively in the dance sequences. There are set pieces that fly in, they get rolled on and off. There's steel beams, there's scaffolds, safety ladders that roll around. Even Jack's painted theater backdrops are made from newsprint draped over a scaffold. That's really clever. And the set was constructed so that every transition between locations was not obtrusive at all. And given the tight space that Stages has on their stage, it's remarkable. And Beiersdorfer's scenic design truly elevates this Newsies into a Broadway caliber experience. The costumes by Brad Musgrove and the hair and makeup by Daniel Poller, they are impeccable. Tons of period detail on these costumes. The Newsies wear all gritty, down-to-earth outfits that are actually distinct so that you can easily tell which Newsies are who. And they were also crafted to be highly durable, which, given the intensity of the dancing, is not easy. Joseph Pulitzer and the other wealthy citizens of New York are dressed in Gilded Age attire that is simply sumptuous. The beads and the sequins on the showgirls for the theater where Jack works at is simply chef's kiss. The only technical problem that I had with Newsies was that Mike Tracy's sound balancing wasn't really quite there. There were a few very tiny glitches in sound quality, and there were microphones that either weren't turned on or not turned up loud enough during certain scenes, so there was some missed dialogue and missed lyrics. But to be completely fair, I saw this production on its opening night, and the production had a cast of 30, looking like they were doing ballet inside of a rock tumbler. It's a lot to keep track, okay? But to give credit where credit is due, this cast never slowed down or let up for a second. Even though their movements were intense and energized, really acrobatic and athletic, the actors still achieved convincing performances. Leading the charge is Daniel Marconi as Jack in what is really a star turn. Marconi portrays Jack with this forceful confidence, really nailing a gruff New York accent that was naturally charismatic. His line delivery was snappy, his vocals were powerful with a soaring Santa Fe, and his character arc was infused with so much urgency, to the point where the moments where Jack had to be quiet, humble, sincere of a character were really strong. Catherine is played by Taylor Quick, and she matches Daniel Marconi's energy perfectly, with a plucky attitude that is actually tempered slightly by Catherine's sophisticated approach to journalism. This is a duality that Taylor Quick highlights especially well in her big solo, Watch What Happens. Now, one thing that intrigues me about Newsies is Catherine actually has a liar revealed arc that happens in Act 2, where she let slip a secret that could ruin the strike. And I won't lie, initially I was dreading the presence of this cliche because there are so many stories where the fallout of a liar revealed moment just ends up wasting time. But it's pretty quickly done with, as Jack has a come-to-Jesus moment that makes him realize that Catherine has been much more of a team player than he initially gave her credit for, that Catherine is not just this love interest because she's a girl type character. And the duet that they have in this moment, Something to Believe In, cemented that strength in their partnership. As a character arc, it was really satisfying for Jack and Catherine, and Daniel Marconi and Taylor Quick's chemistry as partners up to this moment was totally believable. Joseph Pulitzer is played by Christopher Gurr, and he is the definition of the contemptible capitalist, a profits at any cost mentality that makes it clear he just straight up doesn't care who has to suffer for his wealth. Pulitzer is a proper Disney villain, and Christopher Gurr milks this ruthlessness for all that it's worth. The scenes where he has to interface and strategize with his cronies, and where he has to ferociously negotiate with Jack, they were captivating to watch. Matthew Cox plays Jack's best friend Crutchy, a part that is actually a lot more physically demanding than one would think, and Cox nails it. He has to have enough agility to limp convincingly on stage, often climbing onto high ledges with crutches. He has to be physically assaulted while still trying to act like he has a broken leg. And he has to do all of that while being really tender enough to make us feel for him, especially in Act 2, when he is thrown into the refuge, which is an abusive home for wayward youths. The warden of the refuge, Mr. Snyder, is played by John Flack, who just oozes deplorability and creepiness. He's on par with the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in that way. Two Newsies that feature prominently in this story are the Jacobs brothers, Davy and Les, who both become the brains of the strike while Jack serves as the face. Davy is the more reserved of the two brothers. He's played by Richard Spitaletta, and he infuses Davy with an intelligence and a reticence that makes his ideas for how to approach the strike feel convincing and logical. The more outspoken of the Jacobs brothers, Les, is played by Davin Wade. Davin Wade has this comfortability and confidence in his interpretation of Les, especially in his comic timing, that is difficult for even adult performers to achieve. The owner and star act of the theater where Jack works, Meta Larkin, is played by Anita Michelle Jackson. Meta is a character who prides herself in being the kind of person who takes care of everybody, and you feel that through Jackson's performance. Jackson is perfect at portraying the duality of Meta's nurturing of Jack's talent and the Newsies' cause, and projecting this soulful stage presence. She has a big solo in Act 1 that's rich, that is loaded with sass. It was so great to watch. The rest of the supporting cast is honestly one of the best ensembles that I have ever seen in any musical since I've been doing this show. Every cast member plays multiple roles with performances that are purposeful and cohesive. The standout performers from this production were Patrick Blindauer, Annalisa Canning Skinner, Kaylee Haggerty, Steve Isom, Giuseppe Little, Avery Martin, Eddie Almo II, Ronan Ryan, TJ Stanton, and Hazel Vogel. Stage of St. Louis's production of Newsies is truly exceptional. Dazzling visuals, triumphant music, and uber-talented cast executing movements that are spectacular, crafting some truly inspirational stage pictures. I would recommend Newsies for literally anybody of any demographic to watch this. In times like these, where coming together for the little guy is just so important, Newsies is a story that is very much worth seeing. But did you see it though? If so, what did you think about it? Comment below and let me know. But if you don't want to just rely on my videos for musical theater news, you can check out my website, jackreviewsmusicals.com. All of my reviews are there, including written reviews that I have published since the start of 2022. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more St. Louis musical theater reviews coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, long live the musical! Yep, hut!